SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Myself, Principal Dr. Bhaskar Shukla from Yuvraj Subhak Singhji Arts and Kantilal Sabudas Shah Commerce College, Devgarh Baria, District Dawat. Friends, today I would like to talk about Elicabethan poetry with a special reference to Shakespeare, Spenser and Sidney. I have a brief introduction about my books. I have published 17 books on different topics. This is a book on post-colonial literature. Then one book on modernism and postmodernism. It's a very famous aspect in literature. Then one book on South Asian women writers. These are my topics of interest. I am very much interested in feminism, modernism, postmodernism and post-colonial literature. Friends, when we think about Elicabethan poetry, first we have to go back to the previous period of Elicabethan age. As we know that the greatest poet before Elicabethan poetry or before the Elicabethan age was Chaucer. As we know that Geoffrey Chaucer was a very famous poet, very famous writer, very famous analyzer. He wrote Canterbury Tales. In that tales, many characters are there. And it is very interesting story that certain people in group, they are going for a journey. And in that group, one monk is there, one nun is there, clergyman is there, many other persons are there. 25 people are there. So everybody would give, would speak something. They will give the story their own. And in that way they pass their journey. So Chaucer described the England of his time in a very beautiful way. In Nun's Tale and in one more female character's tale, we can have a little bit glimpse of feminism in Chaucer also. If we assess Chaucer in a feminist approach, we can have good ideas in Chaucer also. So before Elicabethan age, only Chaucer was the great poet. The presence of Chaucer was felt before Elicabethan period. And we know that Elicabethan period was influenced by the Renaissance period also. Printing machine, people's interest for learning, printing press established, then translation from Italy, French, that sort of literary activities has been started in Renaissance. So the presence of Chaucer and Renaissance. These are important aspects in the development of Elizabethan poetry. Elizabethan poetry, the three foundations, the three founders, strong persons, developed Elizabethan poetry. The first one is Shakespeare. As we know that Shakespeare was the greatest English author, the greatest English poet, in the sense that he had a tremendous influence for centuries and centuries. Shakespeare died in the year 1600, and 400 years have passed from Shakespeare's death. Still, Shakespeare has immense popularity. His 400 death anniversary is celebrated this year in Britain. Many Shakespeare clubs are there, many Shakespeare seminars and workshops are organized on Shakespeare's. Shakespeare wrote 37 plays, among which 7 are tragedies, remaining comedies, and 154 sonnets. Shakespeare wrote 2 lengthy poems also. So, Shakespeare has a tremendous popularity as a dramatist. Not only that, but in poetry, he is immense. His popularity as a poet also, we have to take note of it. Because all his dramas, whether it is comedy or tragedy, all have a very good poetry. You take any drama of Shakespeare, any tragedy, Romeo Juliet, Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, any tragedy. All tragedies have a very beautiful poetry, very excellent dialogues. The presence of the characters are felt tremendously. Very good dialogues. He has a great art of storytelling. It has been said that why Shakespeare was very popular. What is the reason? Critics are discussing, because some controversies also are there, whether Shakespeare really existed or not, whether he was male, female, or somebody else wrote dramas on behalf of Shakespeare. Such controversies are there. But we believe that Shakespeare existed and he wrote great literature. And especially his poetry in drama is very excellent. Shakespeare wrote in all 154 sonnets. All sonnets are, most of the sonnets are in typical Shakespearean or Spenserian stanza. As we know that the form sonnet is an Italian form. Petrarch in the 13th century gave sonnet form. And in the Elizabethan period, Spenser and Shakespeare use sonnet form in a very beautiful way and made a strong foundation of English sonnets. Shakespeare has a very good imagery, very good imagination. His style of telling, his use of words, his imagery, and moreover, it has been said that Shakespeare was the master of human psychology. Even the word psychology was invented after 100 years of the birth of Shakespeare. He was the master of human psychology. Freud, we know that Sigmund Freud is the master of psychology. But Freud came very late than Shakespeare. But before Freud, Shakespeare knew female psychology, male psychology, even the psychology of the spectators. Shakespeare was very much aware of the audience of that time, the taste of the audience. We can see the photographs of the theatre of that time. We can see the part of audience sitting on upstairs, some are sitting on near the stage, downstairs, in that way. Shakespeare gave his presence as a dramatist. But today we are talking about Shakespeare as a poet. So I have taken his one sonnet. It is a very excellent sonnet on love. The definition of love in this sonnet given by Shakespeare is very beautiful, very extraordinary, I should say. Or it is the definition for which will going on for time and time, centuries and centuries, because such words came from Shakespeare, not from any other writer. It is the sonnet is let me not the marriage of true minds. How he start his sonnet? Love is not love which alters when alterations comes. Friends, pay attention. You are young. If you want to know what is love, what is the definition of love? What would you say? What is love? If someone says, I love you, that's all. If someone writes, I love you so much, is that all? When you say, I love you, you must understand what is love. What is love? Love is not love which alters when alterations finds. Alter means change. Love will never change. In whatever the situation, in whatever the positions. What are the problems are there? Hectic situation full of danger, full of terror, full of complexities. But true love will never change. What Shakespeare says, love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. It is an ever fixed mark, or bends with the remover to remove. Bend, we know, bend. Remover. If someone make there that I will change his love. If someone says that from tomorrow, you will change your love, or from tomorrow your love will be changed, something will be happening, something will happen, and you will change your attitude, you will change your feelings. Is it love? Shakespeare says, no, this is not love. When you want to remove and it removes, this is not love. It cannot be removed. It is an ever fixed mark. Love is an ever fixed mark, like the star. As we know that in the sky, the stars are there. They never change their place. Their place is fixed.